Hello and welcome back to Deconstructed. I'm your host Sam Animal Mackenzie, and with me, as always, Harry Nero Richards. Harry, how you doing today, mate?
I'm doing well. Actually, in the same country for more than a few days. It's kind of great. Got life back together. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. Fucking open team lasted 2 days, so yeah, we're doing really good. We're doing really good.
At least we got some wins though.
Wasn't that? Oh yeah, we got some wins, did we? Yes, that's certainly how that went. Anyway, should we talk about real Counter-Strike teams and not shit tier open teams that may or may not have been signed to organisations? Anyway, let's talk about ENCE, because ENCE have been quite fun for a while actually.
Cool.
They picked up NertZ after the failure that was Valde. Who could have predicted that? Legitimately not me, but there we go.
No way.
And they're quite good now, to be fair. They might be the best team in the world. They've reached, I want to say 3, but you'll get mad at me, 4 finals in a row, because challenger events apparently do matter. And they might not have won them all. In fact, they've only won 1. But yeah, they're pretty fucking good right now. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you, Harry, is, are they the best team in the world?
For me, still no. But I think they're kind of filling I'm going to call it the heroic gap, because heroic have been a bit mid recently. Like since summer break, basically, they've been a bit mid, and it's kind of that same thing where heroic had, where because they were the only team with consistent results over like a period of 6 months or whatever, they were kind of best team in the world by default. And ENCE have kind of got that, but I think Vitality also like have barely missed a step. Like their worst result in months is a top 4 alone. Like I think Vitality have to be the best team in the world, but ENCE, they're right up there. I think if they lost this final to a different team to Vitality, if they lost this to like FaZe or something, then it's completely up for grabs, and then ENCE are the best team in the world by default. But I think no. I think Vitality just there, but that's nothing to take away from ENCE. Like it's still kind of mad that they're this good. That they really are. It's almost unfair to say they're punching above their weight, because the individuals they've got now are like they're not bad individuals anymore. Like this is not a case of Snappi elevating shitters. Like, I mean, it never really was, but you know what I mean. Like these are superstars. Like this is a proper fucking team. Like if you change the org label, I don't think anyone would really notice. Like it's not. Then they're underdogs in terms of the org and the org's investment, but not in terms of the actual talent anymore.
Okay. I've got a couple of thoughts. One, I want to say I do agree, it is Vitality, and the only reason I asked that question is because I saw one of our friends, maybe it was even you, I don't know, I don't read it, but someone at TLDR, maybe it was just a tweet, suggested that ENCE might be the best team in the world, and I thought it was a bit silly.
No, it's because they're number 1 on Valve. It's because they're number 1 on Valve.
Well, yeah, that's a brilliant ranking, isn't it? So happy that's going to get used. Anyway, I just want to say before we get into the team, the word superstars, let's not dilute the term, all right? They've certainly got a superstar, maybe 2. We'll get to that. And
Snappi counts.
They've 100%. No, okay, I was about to say that they've 100% got a superstar IGL. Let's not dilute the term. We'll get to that. But let's start with Snappi, right? So Snappi, a few months back, he caught some flack because I did a little interview with him for Blast at the major, and he said to me that he believes he's the best Danish IGL, and I won't lie to you. I was a bit taken aback when he said it to me. I was quite surprised. I don't think I hid my surprise very well, but you know, when he then backed it in his next response, I was like, do you know what? I like the confidence. And since then, the results, I'm fucking listening, mate. I'm here for it. You know what? You're not just the best IGL in Denmark. You're the best IGL in the world, mate. Fuck it. You just are. Like, Cadian might be doing whatever the fuck he's doing with his band of fucking merry men that choke every time they see a stage. You've just pulled together 4 random blokes from every corner of fucking Europe and just fucking He's winning, mate. You're gas. You're fucking sick.
He smashed it. He smashed it.
But yeah, in your eyes, is there anyone that comes close to him for the title of best RGL in the world right now?
Before Cologne, I would have said Cadian. I would have still said Cadian. I think 2 events later, then yeah, it's got to be Snappi, right? Like it's like, did you see their T-side win rate? Gamers 8 was like 61%, and I know it's like they play Anubis a lot. Like I think they had like 3 Anubis games, but Anubis isn't even that T-sided anymore. It's just ENCE make it look that T-sided because they've just got a clock on the map. And I'll always remember when Snappi said, I think it was at the major, I was like, oh, you're on a bit of a losing streak on Anubis. What's going on? And he's like, well, actually, we're really fucking good at it, and we've just lost every like overtime game. And then he just backs it. Like you just have to love Snappi because the shit he says, like he's such a fun interview because he just backs himself that much, and it's like it's not even like in a like pricky way. He's just right. Like he's right every time, and that's where it comes into it. But yeah, no, he's like. The other thing he said that was really interesting, I think, he said, like, he thinks I think this is a Cologne, actually. He said that the meta, because people say it's a stagnant meta, stuff like that. Snappi basically said, I think people aren't paying attention completely because the way T-sides are played with ENCE, Vitality, phase a little bit, like, they have changed quite a lot. Like, it's much more chaotic than, like, if you compare now to the online era, you probably see it more, but it's much more chaotic, like, less default heavy. Like, ENCE do a lot of, like, 3-4-man openings that you'll notice. Like, Snappi's really good at changing the pace, knowing what to call at the right time, and this is like before you even get into everything else about it. Like it's him and Saw who built the system, who built the team. Like they don't have a GM, they don't have a huge budget. Like he's got the breadth of work now. I think Snappi has to be the best RGL.
Yeah, I mean, like if FaZe had any slight amount of consistency or even getting impressive finishes anywhere near as often, maybe you'd argue for Carrigan, but Carrigan's stock right now must be as low as it's been in years. Like, possibly, and this might be a step too far, possibly even pre-mouse. Like,
no.
I think Carrigan's stock should be fucking low right now, to be honest. I don't think people are actually talking about that enough, and I'm a fucking huge Carrigan fan. Like Cadian, you got to excuse Cadian a little bit because obviously Stown just falls apart. Yabby's not been great recently, and he himself gets a bit hero ball on the big stage. Hooksy, do you know what? I think Hooksy's actually underrated as an IGL. I think we're probably nearing the time that people begin to figure out what Hooksy's level is, and I actually think it's probably a bit higher than a lot of people think it is. I mean, Apex, it's definitely a good IGL. Still not entirely convinced he's a great one. I think he's just got a very fucking good team. Like, but the difference is with all of these is like they do have just stars like Carrigan, Twist, Rops, Brokey, Raid, like Hooksy, like having fucking Hunter and Nico and then Monacy, absurd. And JKS is so like Vitality, like all of these teams have superstars, except maybe Heroic, sure, whatever. Snappi just never had that luxury until probably this year with Sunpayus. I don't know if it's really fair to say about it before. That about Sunpayus before this year? Yeah, okay, Spinks, but yeah, no, okay, Spinks. But what Snappi manages to do with these players, and especially when you consider the growth that he takes them on, like I'm not sure you can even say the same about Carrigan with this FaZe team. I don't think Brokey got much better because of Carrigan. I think Vrops maybe did, but that was on Mouse, not on FaZe. Like I think everyone else on FaZe is the exact same. Like I just think what Snappi does from where he gets a player to where that player and him part ways through whatever means that is, like even if he's kicking that player will undoubtedly be 10 times better than before their time together. And yeah, I just think like Snappi's probably one of a kind in that sense.
Yeah, I because it's like you can look at IGLs a lot of different ways. Like some of them are shot callers, some of them are more like player developers and things like that. And Snappi, you've got both. Like he's literally like DIYing his own fucking superstars. Like he's not the one selling the superstars anymore. Like he's doing the Hunden shit. He's teaching people how to play in tier 1 because it is different, and it is different. Even someone like Sunpayus, like there was a long period where he was still settling in, especially on T side. Like it's a bit of a overdrawn out point now that he's so good on T side. But I think a lot of that credit has to go to Snappi, because Snappi's the one who told him, you're too good to be AWPing like Shiro, start watching device demos. And now Sunpayus AWPs differently, right? And I think that is why Snappi is unique, because he can do both. He develops players and he shot calls as well as he does. And it's like, of course, lots of IGLs are capable of that. But someone like Glaive, he's never taken someone who's unproven like Snappi has. Like Carrigan probably has, because he had the mouse stint, and that's why a lot of people favor Carrigan over Glaive. But this is something Snappy's done time and time again. And he's just like, I'm so glad he's had this late bloom, because pre-COVID, like you thought his time might have gone, and now you're seeing like IGLs do age like fine wine. They can have bad projects and come back out of nowhere. Like this is like, unless you're literally an IGL who just is out of the meta completely, like you can come back. You can come back, and I think this is kind of the template. It just proves the point. Like, and he's not even bad individually as well. For someone who's like, what is he, like 33, 32, 33? And he's like,
yeah.
He's nowhere near the worst individually, like of the IGL. So I think, yeah, it's just huge credit to him. There's a reason we spent 30 minutes and we've only talked about Snappi, basically.
Yeah, and like, before we move on, because at some point we do have to, even though I could happily speak about Snappi for 40 minutes.
Snappi
like,
episode.
I think as well, one of the things that is underappreciated about Snappi, besides his ability to actually get kills, one thing people like about Cadian is this whole idea of Cadian's fucking story and him, you know, at Cologne 2015 he was an analyst and now he's at the top or whatever. Snappi's story's fucking great, man. Like, dude was a player before Global Offensive even came out. There's only very few fucking players out there that can say that now. Like,
tier 1, I guess.
Very few tier 1 players that can say that now. He retires for a bit, comes back, just starts fucking IGLing straight away because, I can't shoot as well, so I may as well learn to lead people. Yeah, sound. Ends up on, like, heroic years down the line. Cadian comes in. Cadian's like, I'm a leader. Snappi loses his spot, and then he gets all the way back here. Then he loses his best player, and then gets back here again. Like, people go on about Cadian finishing his story, and I want Cadian to finish his story. But I hope Snappi gets to finish his too. I hope he gets a Katowice, a Cologne, a major. One of these, preferably Cologne or a major, preferably both. Because he fucking deserves it. It's fucking cool. And I feel like it's a very understated part of Snappi. But let's move on. Let's talk about you know, let's talk about the superstar of the team, because we brought him up. Let's talk about Sunpayus. So Sunpayus comes in after being very impressive for Riders. They made the top 4 Cologne.
Yep.
And then when ENCE lose Spinks, ENCE look for a new superstar, and they turned to Sunpayus. Potentially wasn't going too well at first. You could definitely see why they'd done it, but you could obviously tell they needed more, and obviously Balde was just sandbagging the team. But now, like, the bloke's gone from maybe the best CT-sided AWPer in the world to still putting solid CT numbers up and outperforming himself on T-side. Like, how the fuck has this happened?
Yeah, he's the device regen. I've been saying this for a while. I'll push it out again. He's that like positional AWPer, and they're my favorite ones to watch. It's the kind of thing you can tell he studies the game so hard, because to get these openings this consistently, like he has to know the game as well as his IGL. And I think sometimes that's quite hard to have, like an AWPer who wants to call around himself a lot. But I think Snappi must love him. Must absolutely love him. Like I brought up that interview quite earlier where Snappi told him to watch more aggressive AWPers, and it's paid off in spades. Like this, too many AWPers are like it's the type of thing where like, okay, some AWPers, they're passive on T-side for a reason, and the reason is you don't trust them to do things, right? But when you've got a player who is good enough to trust, like you can see the difference it makes. Like it's like they're playing on easy mode half of this time. Like I think it was at Cologne where he had like the highest opening kills per round like of the event or something similar to that. Maybe it was.
Well, I saw a stat recently that was like he has like 17% opening attempts and like 61% success. Like his success rate is just absurdly high.
Yeah, he goes for these picks and they're so well studied and so well thought out that he just doesn't miss. And it's like, and he's like underrated as clutcher as well. I think when I see him in like a 1v2, I get that kind of device feeling. Like we both know about device in 1v1s, but 1v2 is like he's playing them perfectly. Like it's.
Yeah, I mean you're very good in a 1v2 until you get it to a 1v1. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, you know the one. But that's the thing with Sunpayus. I think he's become this really active AWPer, and that's so hard to do. Like people look at passive AWPers the wrong way. They're passive because it's the most efficient way for them to be good, right? Obviously, if you're a fucking superstar, the most efficient way is to kill as many people as possible, and being aggressive helps that. Like this is kind of where you see Snappi and Sunpayus' philosophy come through.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Sunpayus now, he's become someone that's, and I mean, not that he wasn't before, but now you get to watch him a lot more at tier 1 level. Like, he's so fucking fun to watch. And he hits shots that most people, like, you know, he doesn't hit that, like, fucking, that nuts flick that everyone's going to remember in 10 years' time in some, like, best players of the decade highlight reel. But he consistently hits shots that really not many other AWPers are going to be hitting. Like, I don't know where right now I'd put him in terms of like the list of AWPers. I think we'd probably put him in slightly different places, or at least our list would look different because I know where Device goes and where csgo goes, and I think it would probably be flipped for you. But Sunpayus is definitely in my top 4, probably in my top 3. Like he's ridiculous, and he's such a luxury for ENCE to have, and I really hope, not that I see a gap around where someone might jump on him, but I really hope they keep him for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, and I'm so glad that he hasn't. But if you're someone at like FaZe or something, like you're kicking yourselves again, like not getting Device, not getting Sunpayus either. Like I think he really could improve loads of teams. I think for my money, he's like, I'm trying to think of the list. It is like it's the m0NESY, Device, csgo, Simple, Zio, like top 5 that he's trying to break into, right? Like I think he's clear of Brokey for me easily. Honestly. Is he better than any of that 5? I think he might be better. He's better than Simple this year. He's better than Simple this year. I'd put him above m0NESY because he's more consistent than m0NESY. Like m0NESY is that moments player that will look like the best player in the world if you only scroll through Twitter.
Well, I think
Sunpayus has been better this year.
For the sake of doing it, then for me, Device, csgo, Sunpayus, and you'd probably go csgo, Device, Sunpayus.
Yeah, right? I think so.
Yeah. So I put Device ahead. But yeah, I think Sunpayus is just nuts right now. Like
he's wicked.
There's no other word for it, and I think as well it's going to be very intriguing to see what he's like in 6 months' time, because I don't think we're seeing the best version of him yet. Because
Do you think?
Oh well, I think there's been games. I think the Cologne final certainly an example of that. I think it was a semi-final. He absolutely shat on people.
Yeah, it was.
And then the final, he was quite quiet. I mean, was it Nuke? He started the map like 1 and 10. He had a really rough start on one of them. It's like he ain't a player that's going to do that forever. Not already the growth we've seen him go through. He just needs to get more used to like those type of games.
Sorry,
you can't expect people to perform like instantly in those games. But when he learns to, it's going to be fucking mega.
Well, he's already so good in stage games for someone with solo experience. Like, he's already, like, that's not a brush you can tar on with. Like, the Cologne final was the only time it was, and that was, like, different type of pressure, isn't it? Like, he's coming in MVP form. Like, it's different type of pressure. I agree, he'll get there.
Well, I'm just classing Cologne as a different form of beast. I think the Cologne, like, it's one thing to perform in a quarterfinal at Cologne or a semi-final at Cologne, at the major, whatever. I think a Cologne final and a major final is going to be a different level of pressure to every other game.
Yeah, and basically everyone chokes their first one, right? Like, it's...
Yeah, like, you can't...
It's hard to find someone who doesn't.
I mean, well, apart from Nico, because he choked his first... That was fun. It's fine. I don't need to count that.
That's the way you're going with this.
It was just quite a few. It was quite a few. He choked quite a few. Sorry, just have to get slandering occasionally. But yeah, so Sunpayus is the superstar. He is the bona fide superstar. And we could talk about the next player who's got the potential to be a superstar. But before that, I think we should touch on the map pool. Because I think one thing that ENCE has that is like, it's a superstar to them without it being player. No Inferno. What a fucking decision. What a decision. Inferno, not only is it fucking dog shit to watch, right? So they're a superstar. The entire team is a superstar for the audience because you never have to watch that shite. Go to Horseshoe Theory. It's so smart because how many times do you see... So you brought up Heroic earlier, right? How many times do you see a team like Heroic fucking lose on Inferno? And they've picked it. Like, they give up their map pick because they've put it on the map that is literally just regarded as being the easiest map to pick up an upset victory on. I don't know if that's statistically true, by the way. I'm sure that's something you've either looked at or will look at some point.
Oh, yeah.
But that is like the common understanding of Inferno. Is like, you want an upset win? Go to Inferno. So
it's
why
what Dusty used to be, right?
Yeah, so why these big teams pick it, I don't fucking know.
G2 pick it too, but...
Yeah, but G2...
Have Nico, right? Like, you pick it because it's Nico's favourite map. Heroic 1, I do get less. I think it does suit their style a little bit, but I think they can punish people more. I agree. And it's a huge strength for ENCE. But banning Inferno is one thing, like Spirit ban Inferno as well. That doesn't make them the best team in the world. I think the depth that ENCE have, like Mirage, do you think of Mirage as like a Snappi map? Like, historically, it's been a Snappi map. And it's like the map with their 6th highest win rate past 3 months, I think. Like, they've got a high win rate on all the other maps than Mirage. And Mirage is like the map I think of, at least, when I think of Snappi. And they've got Nuke, which is like, if you're going to be one of the best teams in the world, like, and you're shit at Nuke, like, I'll just go straight away and say, if you're shit at Nuke, you're shit at the game, because that's the map that defines the game for me. And then they've got Anubis as well. They've worked out Anubis. They won 7 Anubis in a row like this, and that is such a strength. Like, it probably happens more than we think. Like, the team that masters the new map, like, this is a huge advantage they have. Like, and they're not even picking it that much because they pick Nuke and usually win it, and then Anubis often gets let in as the third because for some crazy reason, I don't know. I wouldn't let them ever play it, but people back themselves, and at the moment that's working out. And it's the thing with map pool is it sustainable? Because it's really hard to be good at a map for like a long time. Like, you normally have 3 to 6 months of being the best team in the world on a map, and then someone works it out, copies you or whatever. Like, even like the FaZe G2 nuke streaks, like, they're really good on the map, and then it tails off. And what we need to see now is what happens when these streaks do tail off, because they will. Like, even that their nuke has looked a bit shakier last 2 events than it did before. Like, that's just how it works. And what can Snappi bring out next? Like, but I've got full faith in it. I think map pools have to change over time, but at the moment they've got like the one you dream of. You're the best team in the world on the new map. You're really good at nuke, and you ban a map everyone likes. Like, it's amazing. It's well thought out, which a lot of vetoes aren't. It's just like, we don't play overpass because we're from the Balkans. Okay, great. Brilliant. You'd be a better team if you did and banned Virgo.
Well, so this is the thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the map pool, though. And with Nuke in mind, these recent slip-ups on Nuke, we had one in Cologne and then one at Gamers 8 in the final, right? They lost against Vitality. So, is that, for your money, is Nuke what you now go to focus on to get it back to the level it was? Or do you just chalk that down to, like, the scale of the event at the time and what those players are facing? Because regardless of where G2 or Vitality might be on the map, it's very hard to see like someone like Sunpayus struggling the way he did. Because I believe it was Nuke that he had the really poor start on. It's hard to see Sunpayus struggling like that on a consistent basis. So is it down more to the confidence of those players in that time, or maybe they are slipping on the map? Because I even said to it was you or Elliot in Cologne, if I was ENCE, I wouldn't have picked Nuke first. If I was that confident of Nuke as a banker map, I'd have picked one of the other maps earlier on in the series. And if there was going to be nerves in that final, I'd have let the nerves play out on that map. And then had Nuke as a banker later on.
I agree with that, I think it was Sunpayus especially, like I just looked up, he went 2-12 on the first half, and Nico's just dropped to 1.87 because, never pick Nuke against Nico, but it's that exact thing. I think they won 6 in a row, but 3 of them were at Cologne, and they were all pretty close. Like it's 16-11, 16-11, 16-12, and then that's so much data to go through. And then Vitality, they lose that 16-14 game, and then G2 stomped them, and they're nervous in the final. And I think they've played the map almost too much. They've almost won it too much. They've drawn attention to it. So yeah, I think the solution is either you pivot to a new map. Like I'd expect them to start picking Anubis more, because they've now lost like 3 of the last 4 Nuke games, and the win was double overtime against Heroic. Like I don't think it's not quite the stronghold it used to be, which is a little bit of a shame. But I think it's probably easier to pivot to a new map. But I'd love to see them be good at Nuke, because the best team in the world on Nuke, like for my money, is nearly always like the top 2 team in the world. Like it's the map of champions.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? FaZe are incredible at it when they were the best. G2 were when they were the best. Astralis were when they were the best, and Na'Vi too the best. It's if you're the best team in the world, you are the best team at Nuke, and there's probably also something Liquid were paying attention to when they decided to start playing it, and that went well for them. But okay, so let's move on from the map pool and let's talk about the other player who has the potential to be a superstar for ENCE. And we did a little, or I say you did a little research before we got on, because I wondered whether it was just confirmation bias from Cologne or whether there was a bit more to it than that, as to whether NertZ was a bit of a group stage merchant. Because since he's come in, he's been incredible. And what did you find?
Yeah, I mean, I had to try and confirm your agenda, as always. But I think it was... Where was it? You love an agenda. There's nothing you love more.
There was no agenda. I was genuinely curious. I like NertZ. I don't want to have an agenda that he's a group stage merchant. Thank you very much. Explain your story.
But everyone loves calling people group stage merchants. And if you ever back up the stats, everyone's like, oh, you're not picking the right stats, whatever. Group stage merchant, every sport is the easiest brush. But with NertZ, yeah, it's a little bit dodgy so far. It is a little bit dodgy so far. So, like, the Cologne one is the big one where, so you had like a 0.86 rating in the semi and final of Cologne, and that's 8 maps. Over 8 maps, he had 0.86, which is not what you want from your star player, but that's his first prestige event. Like, Dallas was his first stage game, and he was fine. He had like a 1.15. Like, he was fine in Dallas. Game is 8, he was in MVP form and then slowed down quite a lot. In the final, especially, pretty bad final. Okay, semi. So yeah, I think there's something to it, but this is the most important thing to remember when you talk about big, like the chokers or whatever. Like it's one thing when it's heroic and it's 2 years of choking, right? A lot of the people who get called chokers, it's like their first 3 events. Like this is like 15 maps he's played on the stage, and he's been good for like more than half of them. Like if you count Game as 8, especially. Like, so I think it's that thing. It's really hard to talk about. Like I think with style is the one I'm really confident on calling. Just like it's happened for too long. Like this drop off is apparent. Like someone like Nico, I think is really good at farming group stages and is still really good in playoffs, and that kind of looks like a drop off. And then in Cologne, you see like he's not a choke. Like he's been around for like 10 years. Put out to bed. Same with Zaiwu. He's got a 1.26 rating in arena games. Like just shut up. He's not choker. But NertZ, yeah, it's a little bit. There is a drop off, but it's over a very small amount of events.
Right, it's like you said, right? And this was the thing that I was always going to raise as the caveat for if there was a consistent drop off, is that Stown is at a point now where it's like, okay, you might genuinely never go at this. That like Heroic could sign some random superstar that can push them to wins regardless of Stown playing like that. But while Stown exists in the system that Heroic have, Heroic will never be capable of winning trophies that actually matter. Because, you know, Blast don't. Those Blast ones
Last
don't.
to be writer.
No. Like, and people who say world final matter, I know they haven't won a world final, but people who say that matters because there's more money there, like, it's still the same format. Fuck off. Like, Heroic can't do that because Stown needs to be more than he ever is on a stage. NertZ, like, you've got to give him some fucking, like, you got to give him some slack for, he's just going onto stages, man. Like, he doesn't even need to be as good as he is when he's off the stage. You could give him, you could allow him more time still to still be acclimatizing to tier 1 blokes. No, you don't need it. So allow him some for the stage. Like, it's fine because, you know, you also see, like, in certain maps and stuff, he's still playing at his normal level. He then just has quieter ones. So if he can make those quieter ones a bit louder, be a bit more like himself, then he's going to be fine. And it's only if we're still having this conversation, I mean, the second half of this fucking year's fucked, so you can't really have this conversation until like fucking May next year now. But if we're saying the same thing May next year, that's maybe when we want to talk about him being a bit of a group stage merchant. It was just, I thought it was an interesting angle. But outside of that, what's your take on NertZ as a player and where he stands in his role right now?
He's great, isn't he? He is great. And it was Lucas at Cologne, he said, like, NertZ is the Italian footballer. Like, he's got that, like, bit of an aura. He's got a bit of an aura around him. He's flamboyant, he's aggressive in game. Like, you can see he's got like that star, like, aura, and he's barely played like a tier 1. Like, this is still so new to him, and Snappi's getting the best out of him, I think. But within his role, it's hard to talk about his role because you're comparing him to way more passive players, right? Like, he's kind of in the lurk roles, but like, he doesn't have loads of opening kill attempts. Like, when I say aggressive, I more mean like explosive. Like, he's able to kind of take solo fights on his own quite a lot. He's just not as passive as like a Robs, obviously. That's what I mean, like in the same role. But so it's hard to compare him to. Like, it's probably more fair to compare him to like an Axile or Nico, who are both very happy being aggressive. And I don't think he's quite there. Like, you can say he's had a better year than Axile so far. Like, Axile's been pretty stinky, honestly, this year. So he's up there. I think he is up there, but I think it's hard to exactly place him. I just think he's clearly got the talent and the drive and like the confidence. Like, he's got everything he needs to be. I won't say superstar again. He's got everything he needs to be like.
No, it's okay to say superstar about NertZ.
Okay, yeah.
It's definitely
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking NertZ, Sunpayus, Snappi is like, they're all superstars in their roles for me. I think they are, and I think NertZ is nearly there. I think it's nearly. I think a few more big events performing like this, and I think he has to be there. I think he has to be right up there.
Yeah, no, I agree. But so what I want to talk about now is maybe the limiting factors to ENCE. And I'm going to kind of brush over Madden here because I actually quite like Madden. I think per his role, Madden's fine, and you see him have these pop-off games occasionally, and like, he definitely, you know, you can see from being around the team, like, he brings a very good energy
Great
to the team. He's a fucking lovely bloke. So I am kind of including him in this, but also not really. So unless you've got a point, don't feel the need to bring him up, because I'd rather just leave it on a positive note with Madden. Cool. D. Right. Now, I know they've been at the top sort of for a year now. Or like they had their little blip after they lost Spinks and they've got back there. But I said it a lot at the start of last year, in the first half of last year, and I'm saying it still now. I'm just still not convinced that dycha is a player that should be on a team this good. Like, dycha certainly has, like, very good aim, and he's certainly very good at trading. I think ENCE are very good at trading in general. But I watched that bloke in a clutch, and I'm not sure how much is going on between his ears, to be honest. Like, and with certain things I've heard at certain points, I'm not sure that maybe things in the team, people in the team fully back him sometimes. Like, I think there's potentially a chance that at certain points they've been looking to upgrade. Maybe they've been feeling like they needed to make changes and he'd be the one going. I've heard these things. I can't really substantiate them, but I've heard them, and that's fun. What's your thoughts on dycha? Is he a limiting factor in terms of firepower? Is he where you need to find that extra superstar that someone like G2 or Vitality already possess?
Yeah, I think that's the argument you'd make. I think he's the one who's kind of like the leftover from the kind of tier 1.5 ENCE. Like, he's the one who was like, he's still really good. It's just like, what are we comparing him to here? Like, he's in G2 it's Hunter. Like, he's supposed to be Hunter, and in FaZe he's supposed to be Twist. And if you're gonna do like in Vitality, it's kind of Mages or Flames, like one of them, whatever. Like, he's supposed to be the second rifle star, and that is a really hard role to be consistently good in. Like, even Hunter and Twist have bad events, like, quite regularly. But yeah, he's not a Hunter, he's not a Twist. And this is where you're looking at, if this 5 was under, like, I don't know, some Saudi org with loads of money, like, you would upgrade it. But I also think it's dangerous to do that all the time. I think when he's been in a team for this long, and people do praise him a lot. Like, I know you've heard your rumors. I'm not doubting your rumors. It's just, when there's a reason they kept him. I think he understands Snappi system. He's been with Snappi for a long time. And like, yeah, I kind of want a bit more from him. Like, especially T side, I think he can become a bit like actually, I looked at it. It's quite surprising. He's got their most opening kill attempts on T side. It's like 22% because they share it out so much. But he's been more aggressive than Madden recently. I think they are sacrificing him a little bit more than they used to, especially T sides. Like, CT, he still has the good spots. Like, I think he's still the outside player on Nuke. Pretty sure, like, stuff like that. He's got the rotate spots for sure, and you do kind of want a little bit more from him, because when he's playing really well, it looks like a different team. And I know with like, it's the type of thing, like, a lot of teams you wouldn't advise changing when you're this good, but I think if they do drop off, like, that's the point where you kind of want Snappi and Saw to get the scouting gloves back on and kind of find that upgrade, because yeah, like, long term, like, if this was a huge org with loads of money, like, I think, yeah, like, that's where you'd improve. Like, he's like, you compare him to the other players and you're like, I don't think he has that ceiling in him. I don't think he has the ceiling to compete with the proper tier 1 players in his kind of, like, you know, third best player on a team.
Well, the thing is, with what you've said there, it's like, I mean, there's a couple things, right? It's like, okay, yeah, they're really good right now, and with how ENCE work, or at least how they have worked, something Snappi said in an interview to me recently about the financials of ENCE makes me think that we might see them stop being that idea of a selling club and keep going. But I still see, with how Snappi and Saw are, they would bring in someone from lower down either way, rather than trying to poach from elsewhere, especially when I'm not sure who they'd even poach. It's very hard to look at yourselves when you're like top. Where are they at the moment? Top 3?
Top 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
they're
they're
top 3
second
in the world.
HW now. Pretty sure.
So it's very hard to look at yourself when you're at that point and just decide like, oh yeah, but we can go to top 1 if we make this change and risk losing what you have. But then at the same time, we're already seeing the success of if you can do that with what Vitality are doing.
Even Hades, like Snappi's been ruthless before. Hades was fine, but cutting him for Sunpayus, like look how well that's gone. I think it's one of those things. It's I think I can't remember which other team I said this about, but it's the major was almost too good for a lot of the hidden gems because you'd want to put them on a team like ENCE, and I think ENCE winning Dallas as well, like put them off for making a change, which is like fair enough. But those kind of like tier 2 gems like that's where you're looking, isn't it? Like kind of Imma for dycha or something. But obviously the roles are completely fucked. But something like that, like some kind of player like Imma in terms of tier 2, like aggressive, loads of talent to mold into, like there's players that can change roles. Like we know there's players that can change roles. Trying to think of more. I think it's more like JL. Like imagine JL for dycha. That's actually nuts, honestly. Like that's kind of what I think would have been an upgrade at the time, but they're still not going to have deep pockets. Like they've got the major sticker money like pretty much guaranteed every year because they're that good. But I think when they say they're not a selling team, like yeah, fine. Like okay, you're not going to sell your best players, but you're not going to be buying the best players. And to make the next step, I think yeah, like I don't think this team's going to be consistently number 1 without a better third star. And that's the kind of thing. Like if you're not in one of those big orgs, then you probably are going to have to rely on like a twin superstars. Like it's the same thing you talk about with Astralis. Like it's Device and PlayMeth, and then you need the third one or the fourth one to step up a bit more. And I think unless like dycha does step up a lot, like it's nowhere near as bad as the situation in Astralis. It's just yeah, you just want that little buff from someone in that position, and I think dycha's old enough that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I know who the answer would be. I might if it was any other team, but there's no way I know better than fucking Snappi and Saw. There's just no way. I'm confident I probably know better than someone who's chilling in Astralis. But I don't know better than those two, so I'm not going to pretend, and I'm not going to ask you to pretend either. Which is good from me because normally I would. So feel free to butt in if you want to, but
no, I
don't think it's worth.
I think I'd keep dycha too. I think they're too good. I think they're too good right now to change. It's just kind of, this is thinking like really long term. This is thinking like, okay, they're really good now, but what happens when they drop off? Yeah, that's what we're thinking about now. Like none of us would make a change anytime soon.
It's one of them. I honestly think you keep him until like CS2 major. That shit's gonna be fucking freakish, man. There is gonna be names that major that right now you have never heard of. Promise you, there's gonna be someone fucking absurd in there, and that person will just be a name for the rest of time. Like they just will be, because CS2 is going to be fucked. It's going to be fucked. So to leave ENCE then, so you know, with what Snappi said in mind about their need, like no longer having the need to be a team that can be poached from, like for in terms of finances, that their finances is better. Because I mean, Spinks, now that Vitality won a major, Spinks cost more than fucking Munacy. Like that team's fucking set. Like they've got bank. They're one of the only orgs that turns a profit. Like in terms of that, and in terms of what ENCE have been in the past, I know they had some success last year, but when we look further than that, when you've got like the Finnish ENCE that did well in 2018, 19. Yeah, 19, that was it. And before that, when they were just like tiered dog shit, like what do you see ENCE being in 2 or 3 years' time? Like where do you see the real long term of ENCE? Is it just, are we at a point now with ENCE where they're always going to be that that kind of top 10 tier 1 org. Like, I want to include teams like Nip and Fnatic in that, where like even if they drop off, like they are just a tier 1 org now.
I mean, with partner teams gone, that's gonna be more meritocratic. I think you and I aren't both 100% on that change, but I think a team like ENCE does definitely benefit from it because they've proven that they can rebuild, and I think it's the type of thing like this core of like the Snappi, Sunpayus, NertZ, like it is that kind of thing. Like, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. Like, I know they're gonna have loyalty to ENCE and things like that, but I don't think it's the end of the world if like a new org comes into CS2 with some big fucking pockets and just size this ENCE roster. Like that's what you would do, right? If you've got big money, this ENCE team is the one that, you know, you chuck a few million at and see what happens. And
can you imagine how well
Snappi back in optics
if fucking big lad Hector just comes dick swinging into the ENCE offices, buys the entire team? I'd be eating fucking 8-course Michelin fucking meal that night.
It would be fun, but it's also like, you can look at so many fun possibilities for these players. But I do want them to stick together. But you're still looking at like imagine like if Karrigan does retire, Snappi, Sunpayus in phase. Fuck it. How good is that?
I mean, yeah, it would be.
Fucking bring Madden as well. Bring Madden as well.
Really
fuck it.
Fun. It would be really fun. Okay.
Madden for rain, maybe.
No, I know what you were getting at. It would be really fun, but as well, the one thing I always stand by is fucking thank God we're talking about Snappi on ENCE. Because, brother, if we were talking about Snappi on G2, they wouldn't have lost a fucking event this year.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have lost one.
I don't know why they didn't do it. There must be a story there. There must be a story why they didn't go for Snappi.
If there is, one day I will find that story.
Break that fucking story, Samuel.
Because, fuck me, they would be unbeatable. But yeah, so I think that's everything on ENCE. They are one of the best teams in the world. They're not quite the best team in the world. They maybe don't have all the elements there right now to be the best team in the world. But it's not impossible to see in the future, right?
No, definitely not. And I think the Snappi Saw combo, Coach IGL, like, it's the best in the world right now. And when you have that, like, anything can happen. Like, I think it's the most important thing to have. They've got the system, they've got the Coach IGL. Like, they're going to be around for a while, hopefully. And
all we got to do now is hope that their season ending kind of 2 months earlier than everyone else won't affect them. Although they should be at World Final. That is one thing. They should be at World Final.
You'd hope so.
If they have a strong Pro League, it's like, I mean, especially if they win Pro League, because Pro League has spots at World Final.
Just an invite, right?
There's not many teams that can, like, catch up to them in the world ranking right now. Like, they should be there. It's very,
they've got
very
Sydney
likely.
too.
And they've got Sydney too. Like, ENCE could have a fucking sick second half of the year, and I cannot wait to keep watching them because they're one of the few teams that actually excite me right now. So with that,
+1.
Let us know down in the comments. What are your thoughts on ENCE? In your mind, is Snappi the best IGL in the world? Are ENCE the best team in the world? And where does Sunpayus sit in your list of authors currently playing? Because someone's going to put him first, and I actually respect that. Other than that, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back next week. Maybe we'll be talking about CS2. Maybe Valve will keep dangling it in front of us. Who knows? I don't. But I've been Sam Animo Mackenzie. He's been Harry Nero Richards. And we'll see you in the next one.